I'm Raj Kumar, President and Editor-in-Chief of Devex. We're back here in Dubai at the Global Education and Skills Forum, the sort of Davos of global education. People are leaving, it looks like. The crowd has left. We're one of the last interviews of the day. Asif Saleh is with me. He's the Senior Director for Communications and Empowerment at BRAC. We've been covering a lot at Devex the Rohingya crisis in Bangladesh. I know you just arrived from Bangladesh, so let's start there. What is the current state of play? How many Rohingya refugees are there in Bangladesh? What is the current circumstance?
So right now we have close to 1.1 million refugees who have arrived. So 300,000 from previous times, but the brand new influx is close to about 700,000, which arrived in a span of about 4 to 5 weeks time frame. So they're all kind of packed in within about a 8 square kilometer radius in a mega camp. It's probably the largest refugee camp right now in the world, and the situation is very, very dire. I mean, we have a full force there, about of 2,600 people working there, but it's not enough. I mean, there's so many people, and our immediate needs are basically how to avert health emergencies and stuff.
Like cholera.
Then recently there was a diphtheria outbreak, and this is a population that has not been taken care of for decades, right? So for a government which hasn't really done any immunization on the children, hasn't done any family planning work. So basically working with them has been very, very challenging. And the biggest threat now is the monsoon is coming over. And these are tents set up in hilly areas, so there's a huge risk of
landslides, right.
So we're very worried about that, actually.
So what about the kids? We're at an education conference. I want to just talk about education for a second.
Absolutely.
What about the kids there? Are they getting education now at this point? Is BRAC involved in that?
Yes, I mean, so that's the interesting dynamics of this, is that there's a huge number of kids and young women here, right? So about close to 200,000 children who are aged from 0 to 17. So first thing we did was created a lot of these child-friendly spaces. So we didn't really call it schools, but here people could come for 2-3 hours, and just play and learn through play over the time being. And only now, basically, government is recently allowing us to open up learning centers, and these are set up. Basically, we are following the Myanmar curriculum because. Government is quite strict about that. There's repatriation discussion going on, so they at some point will go back, at least that's the hope, with a safe and peaceful and dignified return. But they should not be devoid of learning. So we have set up about 200 learning centers as we speak now, and we plan to. And that's not enough at all. And there are other organizations, UNICEF, and they're all working there as well. But I think the challenge is how to come up with a kind of a unique model in this compact situation where there are so many other dire needs, how to keep them at school. But so far I think we are trying our best.
And is the plan going forward that they would remain in this area, or are there plans afoot to break up the population and move to other parts of the country?
Yes, I mean, there is one plan that the government has done to move about 100,000 of these refugees in a remote island, which has not been endorsed by the organizations yet, because we are not yet sure how safe that would be from natural disasters like cyclone and stuff. But we know that the Navy is working on rebuilding that area so that they can move about 100,000 people. And so far the repatriation talk has been going on, but nobody has moved back as of yet. There's a lot of talk, but not much action.
Well, let's talk about the other education work you do at BRAC, because I know you focus a lot on the ultra poor, and you've worked a lot in informal schools around Bangladesh, but I understand you're making some changes now in your model. Tell us about the model change.
Yeah, it's quite an exciting change going on. I mean, we basically have been running these schools for close to 30 years now. We, at the peak of, we ran about 40,000 schools, which is known as non-formal schools. It's a one-room school, 30 children, mainly targeting the students who have dropped out from the formal school system. The idea has been give them high-quality education in a low-resource setting, and then sort of move them to the government school system in the junior school.
The scale is amazing, by the way. I know everyone knows Bangladesh and BRAC, but 40,000 schools, it's just unbelievable.
But recently has been like everywhere in the world. I mean, parents, as Bangladesh has done quite well in terms of economically over the last 25 years, there has been steady growth of 6 to 7%. the aspiration level has gone up. I mean, the parents' focus has gone into more into quality education. So we see that there's a lot of demand for quality education, and so we are also people seeing that people's ability and willingness to pay for quality education has gone up as well. So we started thinking around, okay, how to upgrade our infrastructure, how to do a better job, more relevant 21st century skill sets education that we can provide to these kids at a nominal cost. I mean, we don't also want to depend on grants and foreign aid money for a long time.
Sure.
BRAC has been basically trying to be on a self-sustainable journey for a long time. So we have about 70% run on our own resources. So it's about a budget of about over $1 billion annually.
And 70% of that comes
from
in.
our
Is that
resources.
mostly micro-lending?
The big chunk is microfinance, about 60% of that. And so our education and health has been mostly dependent on grants.
Okay.
So and philanthropy money. So that's something we're basically making that shift, that how can that be more sort of self-sustaining. So we have built in some social enterprise model in health and education. And so the education model, from this journey from free schools to fee-based schools have been quite an interesting journey. So we now have about 9,000 fee-paying schools that we have converted. This is better infrastructure, better teacher, better quality education, and the transition has been so far very positive.
And give us an idea, what nominal fees, what does that mean in your context?
So basically, we are depending on the poverty pocket. So what we have decided that in the poverty pocket areas where there is still a lot of poverty, we want to keep the free schools running, and in the other areas we're relevantly better off areas. So it's a low income setting. So we charge anywhere from 100 taka to 300 taka, which is roughly about $1 to $4 range, right? And depending on the area and the neighborhood and the economic conditions, we have a bit of a flexible model there, and we make sure that roughly 10 to 15% of the population who are ultra poor, who are not able to pay, they basically get a stipend and free education for that. So the idea is that anybody who wants to come should be coming, but depending on the ability to pay, they pay basically.
Got it. Yeah, it's a big debate, whether
Yes.
schools for low-income people make sense,
Yeah.
for-profit or non-profit, or fee-based or non.
Yeah, we're doing a deep dive tomorrow on this. I'm in the panel, but so for us, it's somewhere in the middle, right? I mean, we are not a for-profit entity. We're a not-profit organization, but at the same time, we are very much aware that the cost has to be also shared by the community, because that's a sustainable model if you want to do experiments and stuff, and that's where we see the change, that people's ability and willingness to pay is there.
Right.
And as soon as we change that model, we also see a drastic change in terms of the dynamics between us and the parents. The parents demand more. The
Sure.
accountability has gone up. Our teachers are more responsive to them. So there is a lot of positive sides to that as well. I know there's an ideological debate, but I think basically BRAC stands right in the middle, because as a social sector organization, we see that there is a win-win proposition in this such initiative. So we're not against introducing fee as long as people are able to and willing to pay.
Yeah, that's one of the great things with this conference, I think, is bringing those practical ideas, leaving a little bit of the ideology to the side so you can have real discussions about what to do next.
Exactly.
I'm curious, is there any other message you're trying to bring here to the conference? I know you're doing some work with employers in Bangladesh to kind of connect schools to the skills that employers actually need.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that has become the number one challenge for us as well. Bangladesh is a very young country. And some other countries like Uganda as well, where BRAC operates now, where 2 million people are entering job market every year, and there are simply not enough jobs for them. And then on the other hand, private sector is hankering for skills, right skill set. So there's a big mismatch happening. So again, we see our role as a facilitator, on one hand working on providing these skills. So we have set up our institution of skills development, looking at this as a next frontier. But very much the model is different. Instead of working close with the government, we are more working with the private sector, because that's where the major number of jobs are being created. And we're also looking at potentially creating more entrepreneurs, so how to build entrepreneurship skill sets. And BRAC having a lot of other services like financing, training, and all this market linkage with the market, like social enterprises, we are going to build it on in this training that we provide.
Within your ecosystem.
So it's almost, you can think of like a micro venture capitalist mode. So,
Wow.
so we are providing entrepreneurship skills and also financing as well.
Very interesting, and it's great to hear about optimistic models in a time of a learning crisis. So many real challenges to hear what you're working on the ground. So thank you. I know you just arrived from Bangladesh.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Raj, for having me.
We're looking forward to hearing more at this
And
conference.
you guys are doing a great job in covering these stories of Rohingya, because I don't think there's not enough media coverage there. So
Thank you.
and very in-depth coverage. So thank you for that.
Thank you.